24 hours ago in this very studio, we touched on how Europe is coming to terms with changing demographics, how politicians are reacting to successive waves of immigration, what Germans have dubbed multikulti, a more ethnically diverse multicultural society. The 2005 riots in Paris's working-class suburbs exposed the frustration and alienation of those whose forebears hail from North and Sub-Saharan Africa. How many suffer racial, ethnic, or religious discrimination? Well, that's actually hard to say. Partly because the French Constitution, in its preamble, guarantees the equality of all citizens before the law, irregardless of origin, race, or religion. In a moment, you're going to hear from a French lawmaker just back from the United States, part of a panel that wants, perhaps, to change all that. It's a hot-button issue in a nation where the last time there were official statistics on ethnicity and religion, it was to round up Jews during World War II. Would statistics help fight inequality, leading to a French equivalent of what Americans call affirmative action, or rather, would it reinforce racial profiling and add another layer of intrusion into our private lives? Today in the France 24 debate, should France stay colorblind? And to discuss it all with us, Leila Legmara, municipal councillor in the Parisian working-class suburb of Colombes for the New Center Party, and you were part of that U.S. fact-finding trip, which
yeah, sure.
is completed. Thanks for being with us. Also with us, Adrien Lenoir of French advocacy group SOS Racisme. Thank you for being with us. We're also going to, in this debate, go to Boston. Shirley Wiltshire, Executive Director of the American Association for Affirmative Action. We'll see how that's going over there. Thank you for being with us. And from Leucate on France's Mediterranean coast, Alec Hargreaves, Director of the French Institute at Florida State University, as well as Salima Belhaj, journalist at France 24, sometimes associate producer on this very show, and who's here to tell us a little bit about her personal experience growing up from immigrant parents. You yourself a French citizen. We'll talk more about it and how you got into this racket of journalism thanks to a program that I guess could be considered parallel to affirmative action. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a moment. We want to thank you, by the way, for your feedback on Facebook, where lots of you have been weighing in on this conversation, and on Twitter, our handle here at FrancoisF24. Now, affirmative action would, of course, only be the next step. Right now, the discussion, the debate in this country is about whether you can simply compile statistics along racial, ethnic, religious, or gender lines. Let's take a look in this story read by Alex Perry.
Getting an idea of a population's ethnic background means taking a census of people's geographic origin, skin colour and religion. It's been done in Britain. The figures have even been published online. Barking in London's east is one of the city's most multicultural areas. White, black, Pakistani, Muslim, all of the residents have been placed into categories. Both the private and public sectors have used the information. So would that be possible in France? In theory, no, but there are some exceptions. Researchers have gathered information on ethnicity under strict controls and on conditions of willingness and anonymity. But defining ethnic origin can be difficult. In the United States, the number of categories has grown to 130, and nobody knows where it will stop.
So, Leila Legmara, just we see the challenge here. If you even just trying to make up the statistics is challenging enough. Tell us what you found out and tell us how it is that you went about going to the United States for that fact-finding mission.
Yeah. We went to the United States because we wanted to have a precise look on the American society and more precisely on the political field. We know that in the United States, they have statistics, and it really helped in fighting against discriminations. In France, we have to precise that statistics are not allowed, or in certain exceptions, like researchers, and in that case, they can be authorized, but otherwise that we cannot use them. So we consider, I'm a member of an association, l'ANELD, and we consider that we need these statistics.
ANELD are what? They're lawmakers who are...
No, we are all elected local officials from ethnic minorities. And we consider that if we really want to help these minorities, if we want them to integrate this society, they need help. And in a certain extent, these statistics will help them in emerging in the French society. And the statistics allows this fighting against this discrimination.
Adrien Lenoir, your thoughts about that?
Well, maybe I'd like to start by remembering that a few days ago, as we mentioned it a bit earlier, SOS Racisme and other organizations and associations that fight discriminations have organized on the 14th of July a great concert with more than 1 million people, where most people that came came there because equality was an objective aim that they were looking forward to find. I think today in France, people are very sick to be, people are sick to be put into small categories, into small cultural boxes, into a segmentation of different categories. And to be honest, I think people just want to have equal rights right now. And I don't see how, in the end, in France, starting to measure discriminations by counting who is black, who is brown, who's red, will help. I think it's quite important that we start talking about actual plans to act against discriminations, but not only measure.
Isn't it important to know where you come from? Isn't it, the old saying that in France they're still having a hard time getting over teaching that all the children are their ancestors are the Gauls in history class. Isn't it important in a country where, again, more and more people are coming from various minority backgrounds to know where you come from?
Well, of course, I think everyone likes to know where you come from, but I don't really see the parallel that you're trying to make between the composition of one's identity and the fact that he would have to declare precisely a fixed and rigid identity in an administration. So I don't really see the parallel that we can make between the fact that, of course, everyone likes to know where we come from, what's the composition of our identities, and the fact that we will start counting people on ethnic criteria to allow a better fight against racial discriminations.
Salima Belhadj, let's talk about your personal experience. You're born in the northwestern city of Rouen. You're a French citizen,
yeah.
But your parents came from Algeria.
Yeah.
And would you be today a journalist if it were not for, I guess, something akin to affirmative action?
Yeah, I had a contract on a big house of radio thanks to my name. It's weird to say that, but it's the thing, because due to affirmative actions, they say that there is no diversity in journalism these days, so we might do something. So they start doing this 2 years contract for people coming from parents who immigrate in France. So due to my name, I had a contract, but also due to my skills. And it's also the things that people should know, that yes, we had a job thanks to our name, because there was something to do. So
you were in a special program at Radio France,
yeah,
where there were, what you said, there were 6 of you in that year.
3 blacks, 3 Arab.
3 blacks, 3 what they call Boer, descendants of North African immigrants.
Yeah.
And what kind of questions did they ask you when you entered the program?
They asked me what was the origin of my parents, how many brothers and sisters I had, where do I come from, where do I live. Those questions that you really don't have when you get recruited normally. So this kind of question was for them sure to be that, okay, we will have diversity in this program, and we want to these people to enter our home Radio France, because there was a need of diversity, of course, and it was the only way to have the diversity, because in the journalism school there was no diversity. So to start with a contract, to start with this kind of recruitment, it was a way to have it.
All right, and Adrien Lenoir, there's an interesting example where you have somebody, you needed some form there of positive discrimination to go out and seek someone like Salima.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you managed to get a job through that means. But I just frankly believe that introducing ethnical statistics would simply generate other problems, and you could have
what
new
sort
measures.
Of problems?
Well, most obvious problem would be the beginning of inter-communitary competition. We've already seen, for example, in the United States, tensions rising between different communities because if we try to give different rights according to which community you are, it can only result at some point into some kind of strange competition going on between different communities. I'm very glad that you mentioned the skills and how important you were taken in your job for skills. I just wish that people would not receive a job because of their origin or where they come from, but of course because of their qualification.
This is because when we get recruited, okay, the main office told us, okay, your name is Salima, your name is Omar, you can get this contract also because you have the skills. But the thing is that when we start working, people inside were not ready for that. They didn't understand. Okay, how did you get a contract? Because it's hard to get a contract in Radio France. Why did you get the contract? Yeah, because I am a part of diversity program. Oh, but it's not fair. Should I change my name? My name is Stephanie. Should I change it to Fatima to get a contract? Even if we change that, even if we change statistic, you have to change the mentality also. Because, okay, we signed for a contract, we have a 2 years job, fine. But people inside were not ready for that.
Let me ask Shirley Wiltshire, listening in on all this from Boston. What are your thoughts when you hear what Salima has to say there?
Well, I certainly understand, and I commend the program for exercising what we call affirmative action. Our program of affirmative action goes back to the first executive order signed by President John Kennedy in 1961. But what needs to be remembered is the relationship between discrimination, and by that I don't mean positive discrimination. I mean real discrimination, and affirmative action. The presidential executive orders that were signed by Kennedy and then later by Johnson first begin by talking about prohibiting discrimination. How do you prove that there's discrimination? There's the rub, because if you have no data, it's very difficult to prove. That is why for employers in the United States that have more than 100 employees or federal contractors that have 50 or more employees, they have to submit something every year called an EEO-1 report, which arrays the employment workforce by a number of categories, like 15 categories, by race and by gender. And that way you can very quickly see how many blacks, how many whites, how many women are in executive positions, how many are service workers. And the statistics in the array by race or gender becomes very apparent. You need to have some way of ascertaining where people are in the workplace or in terms of the census generally in order to begin to address the problem of discrimination. And by that, one of the methods to address discrimination is to use affirmative action. Let me underscore another thing. The woman who was hired through what you call positive discrimination was also qualified. And people must understand, although, we need the media to help with this, affirmative action means making an effort to recruit people who would otherwise not be considered because of their race or their ethnicity or gender. This is giving them a chance, but they are qualified. What is important is to expand the reach and to what we say cast a wide net to recruit everyone who has qualifications but who may have been excluded because of their race or because of their ethnicity.
Or because of their ethnicity. Now, for the time being, the French president no longer pushing his plan to revise the Constitution to sort of lift that color blindness that's written in stone. But he has set up several panels and repeatedly defended the concept of positive discrimination, like at this New Year's press conference back in January 2008.
I want the Commission to work on this idea. How do we build our diversity in this country? How we live it? I mean, look at the magistrates there. Look. Do you see diversity? Look at the police commissioners, the generals. Look at the state superintendents. Do you see diversity? Diversity is not expressed enough in our society. I am very proud of the government of François Fillon because we will never be able to form a government the way we used to before François Fillon.
All right, an allusion to the fact that his prime minister at the time had a lot of women and people from minority backgrounds. A lot of them have left, by the way, in the build-up to the 2012 presidential election. Actually, I want to put a question to Alec Hargreaves, who's with us and has followed this issue closely. Alec, when Nicolas Sarkozy was elected president, were you surprised by his outspoken stance on this issue?
Not entirely. I mean, we've got to remember that Sarkozy has proved himself to be a consummate politician. He can make overtures on the one hand towards minorities, and then in the next breath, he can make overtures towards right-wing voters in terms which are very antipathetic as perceived by those same minorities. So the opportunism of Sarkozy doesn't particularly surprise me. I'd like to come back to a key distinction that we need to make in this discussion. It's between, on the one hand, the question of ethnic statistics, and on the other hand, the question of affirmative action, which the French sometimes call positive discrimination. I think that Shirley is absolutely right that France and any other country cannot eradicate or effectively fight ethnic and racial discrimination without a system of ethnic statistics. That's needed in France, and Sarkozy backs that. What Sarkozy has backed off from is the idea of affirmative action on the basis of ethnicity.
Backed off for now.
Right, backed off for now, and frankly, I don't think he'll come back to it. What he's re-centred his position on is, which of course is now a long-standing position in France, is that you do engage in positive discrimination, but it's based on what the French call territory, by which they mean the disadvantaged urban areas we all know as the banlieue, where minorities are concentrated, but where there are also people of majority ethnic backgrounds. So you help in certain ways the banlieue, and that de facto means that you're helping ethnic minorities, but you're not only helping ethnic minorities, you're helping all the disadvantaged people in the banlieue. So that's the basis upon which Sarkozy now favours what he calls positive discrimination.
When we come back, we'll talk about that positive discrimination and how it's playing out. Stay with us. The France 24 debate continues.